5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Skol Experience. Jamie is out tonight. He is at, as you know, living in Boston. He is at the Timberwolves game, hopefully watching them come away with a victory. So we are joined tonight by Justin of Purple and Gold for Days, as well as Johnny of Bite Size Sports. Fellas, how are we doing this evening on really the first Wednesday of the Minnesota Vikings offseason? How are we doing, and how are you guys feeling about the direction? How are you guys feeling about in general now that the season's over? I'm feeling pretty good. I'm ready. I was ready for that season to be done. I'm ready to move on, and I think it's going to be a fun, exciting offseason.
And I'm digging the fat head behind you. Is that a fat head?
No, my wife drew this.
Oh, that's even better.
I know, right?
Man,
she just had this like pretty much done. One day I came to like look at it. I was like, oh shit. Yeah, right. But no, yeah, I'm at peace. I'm kind of with you there.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
I was at peace the day Kirk Cousins went down. You know,
yeah.
Let's just call it for what it is. It was just one of those years where you started off not doing what we thought we were going to do, starting out 1-4, being in close games again, and not having the magic of the fourth quarter comebacks, one-score victories, and you're on the brink of ready to say, let's just accept this season for what it is. And then they go beat the 49ers, and you're like, okay, maybe we got something here. And then they beat the Packers, and we're like, okay, oh, wait, then we lose Kirk Cousins. And it's just like, okay, now what? And then more roller coasters ensue, and this is where we're at, you know?
Yeah.
The Vikings have a tendency to not give themselves a big enough margin for error so that when bad things happen, it's like, okay, well, if this hadn't happened or if that hadn't happened, yeah, well, that's because they don't have any margin for error. So, but to your point, hey, it's a new season. We're all Dallas Cowboys fans this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So we can all agree, regardless of what direction this team is or isn't going to head in, we can all unite and say, how about them Cowboys?
I don't know about that. I might be a bigger Rams fan. I think I hate the Lions more.
Really?
Now, hate the Lions, or have the fan? It's weird because
it's like the
fan base has made us hate the Lions. Like, you know, the old adage of act like you've been there before, but I guess they haven't. So they really don't know how to act.
When they were
talking
about TJ Hawkinson on Twitter and going,
well, yeah, that's just, you know, stupid.
Yeah,
like,
I don't hate
karma.
I don't have the same disdain for the team colors, but the current fan base, current players, have driven me up an absolute wall this year. So
before we
got
go,
no love
you guys
for
do
them.
a couple of shout outs here. Sorry to interrupt there.
No,
Purple Papa was in here before the show started. Brian, please stay and help our defense. Gary, of course, every time we always see you in here. Thank you for hopping in. And of course, Life Barber as well. Can't respond driving, listening to the show. Perfect. Be safe. Don't be texting and driving.
Yeah,
you do you,
absolutely.
man. But enjoy the show. Thank you for hopping in here. But yeah, it's Justin. What were you saying? Sorry, I cut you off there.
Well, I mean, again, you're right. So there's a generation and a half of Lions fans that don't know what to do with themselves this week. So on one hand, you want to kind of give them a pass. You know, I remember Dan Barrero, who hosts the afternoon drive time show on KFAN, who grew up a huge Cubs fan. When the Cubs clinched the National League pennant and Chicago was going crazy, and you know, it's like, hey, you know, do you maybe want to save this a little bit until you actually win the World Series? And I said, no. If the Vikings just won an NFC Championship game, regardless of how the Super Bowl went out, I'd go crazy because I've never seen it in my lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And being that there were pretty much nobody else around the last time they'd been to a World Series, no, you absolutely go crazy if you see something for the first time. Now, what I was saying a moment ago was, regardless of how Lions fans have been and some of their players, once the Vikings are out, it is hashtag ABGB, which stands for anybody but Green Bay.
As
soon as the Packers lose, then yeah, we can root against the Lions all we want. But
I feel that one, man. I feel that one for sure. Two-Tone Tony, thank you for hopping in, as well as Chi-Town Vikings. Thank you.
Yo, what up, Chi-Town?
Well, but yeah, I don't know. I know Kwesi in his press conference today said the words big offseason a couple of times. And I mean, looking at the way this team is made up right now and some of the decisions that have to be made and some of the money that's going to have to be spent, like this really for this, I mean, and not even just like it's a coach, it's a GM and coach combo going into their third season as well, where they've experienced the highest of highs as they could, winning division, 13-4 record, and then they experienced the lows, playoff loss, bad play this season, injuries, some coaching mishaps. So really, like, I mean, I know with quarterbacks they kind of give like that 3-year window, like the third year is when things are really supposed to click.
Right.
I think that's kind of going to be the position that Kwesi and Kevin O'Connor are going to be in as well here. I mean, I don't know. I think there's no other way to put it. This is an absolutely like an astronomical offseason for those two. I mean, first off, a generational franchise player in Justin Jefferson. Like, I don't think he plays next year without new money. I really don't. I just think after the way the season went with the quarterback issues, the injuries, I don't foresee a scenario in which he doesn't play under new money.
Yeah, totally. And to your third year point, like with the coach and GM, I think that's applicable to some of the players on the team too. Like year 3 for guards is huge. Can we get some internal growth to give us a little bit more of that margin for error that Justin talks about? Because right now it feels like, it's sunk cost with 3/4 of the past 3 years of draft picks right now. And they've obviously still got some of their rookie contracts left, but I think that's another thing that's hugely important going into next season. Not obviously just an off-season thing, but through camp and everything, you've got to see some sort of internal growth with the guys that you have on affordable contracts that you can develop internally. So that's another huge thing for me that obviously we're not really going to have an inkling of until at least the preseason. So that's something else that I'm thinking about.
Though today in his press conference, they brought up Louis C. and Andrew Booth. And I did not hear I don't know, did you guys listen to their season-ending press conference today?
No, I didn't have time to, unfortunately.
But there was some, because they had asked about the players who were in their second year, basically talking about Louis C. and Andrew Booth and saying, like, we haven't seen a lot from them. Like, what do you need to see? Why may that not be
something? And
Kwesi did not give them a glowing endorsement. He basically had said, like, well, we understand, like, these guys are still learning. Scene didn't have his rookie year. Same thing with Andrew Booth. It's like, we still believe in these guys, but also we need to look at the best ways to improve our roster. So hearing him say that, I don't know, man, it's not a very glowing endorsement of your very first round pick in my mind.
That second little quip is pretty indicting.
Yeah.
Well, you almost don't want to lump Booth in with Scene because Booth actually got in there
on the field
pretty decently.
Yeah, how about that?
Throughout the year.
Scene put up the DeMar Hamlin stat line on the season.
Here's an
Scene
angle
put
on
up the
JJ.
DeMar Hamlin stat line. I think they had both one tackle.
Here's an angle on JJ's. It's kind of it's like his own worst enemy when it comes to how talented, because he's so talented, right? Even if he holds out, people are still going to come to us with, to trade for him, right? So if he holds out, he tolls. His year will toll. He's still a Viking. He can't go anywhere. And people, it's not going to cost us anything because plenty of teams are going to want to trade for him. You know what I'm saying? So he's kind of in a situation where, I don't think we're in a situation anywhere near it where we're like gonna in some sort of stalemate with him right now. So that might, but if you go look at what we got for Percy Harvin, he was a really good talent, right? And Moss, really good talent. We're still gonna get first round type of shit for him, even if he was to hold out, because those guys wanted, and Diggs for that matter, those guys wanted out of town. Diggs and Percy Harvin, Moss maybe not, but we still got picks for him because of how talented they were. So, and that's a catch-22 with Justin. If I hold out, well, my contract will toll. And then where goes my legacy kind of thing. I think when it's all said and done, we get him, we sign him.
I'll say this. What you just said is 100% accurate and 100%, and I don't mean this as a slight, irrelevant. It's not going to get to that point. It will be done before the draft. One way or the other.
You think so?
I'm saying it in this. I'm saying it in this context. Before Dave was like, "Geez, why'd you do that?" I'm saying it in the context of this: the Vikings will never let it get to that point because it would be career suicide for them to do it. They're either going to have Justin Jefferson re-signed or they're going to have him traded before the draft so that they can recuperate some of those first round or whatever draft assets in this cycle. They're not going to take Justin Jefferson beyond the draft and then trade for him or trade him away and get picks in the 25 draft, where the team that he goes to invariably would be better and have a lower draft pick. So I get what you're saying, Dave, and you're 100% right. I'm just saying it from the standpoint it's never going to get there. Never.
Can't.
You're just saying it'll all play out before the draft.
It'll all play out before the draft. Yes.
In my mind, I think he wants. I don't know. See, when it comes to the way that he's gonna like his future with this team, I think he wants to see what that's going to look like. So I think, I mean, in my personal opinion, I think he's going to want to see what this team looks like after the draft from the quarterback perspective. I don't know. I don't know. That's just kind of the way I view it. Is that I think he's. I mean, I don't think he wants to leave. I think he does want to be here. And I mean, because he knows damn well wherever he ends up, someone will pay him the money that he wants. Like, the money's not the issue. I do think for him, it is a matter of, can I win soon? And like what's the direct, like what's your 5-year plan with me if you sign me to a 4 or 5 year contract? So in my mind, I think he waits until the quarterback position is a little more stable than it is right now.
And it will be, though. That's what I'm saying. You will know by the draft if Kirk Cousins is back or not.
Casey, you remember me?
Yeah, he's a free
remember
agent
me
March
bringing
15th.
this up to Wabi when I said it is like Spielman got his guys. Like, as soon as free agent hit, he extended his guys. And like Kwesi is like waiting the last fucking minute, right? He's like waiting for the last fucking minute. So I don't know if he's gonna get it done before the draft. Because of the way he's been. So I'm not positive there, because he didn't get him last year. You know, he waited and waited and waited.
But he also did. But he also did say today that, like, he's like, it's easier to talk with his representation because we basically already got super far in these discussions last offseason.
Right.
So
yeah, that's an advantage. Yeah.
So that helps.
That's a good thing. And I guess they're already talking to Daniil Hunter's
what up,
team. So
yeah.
And I think when you're negotiating with a guy who obviously is a franchise player, a core player of Jefferson's talent, I think those negotiations and what you tell him it'll look like is from a pretty wide lens, like wider than it would be with a prospective free agent or like a low-level starter you're negotiating with. Like, I think he's going to get kind of their full plan layout. You know what I mean? Like, if they're negotiating pre-draft, they're probably going to say, hey, listen, we're prepared to do whatever it takes to move into the top, let's say 5, 3, whatever, to get a franchise quarterback to grow with you, and or hey, we just inked Kirk back this next year. You're gonna have Kirk throwing you the ball. We're hoping he's healthy by week 1, and here's what we're looking to do in the draft to kind of bolster that, or here's kind of our long-term plan. In addition, you know what I mean? Like, I think he's going to have all the information that they have. I think they'll be very, very transparent.
And I think it's been the whole time. I think because when they talk in the media, and it's like Kwesi says, I've been pretty consistent of wanting Kirk back, because he has been. They talked about that after his Achilles injury. It's like, I think I've been pretty consistent that I want him back. So I just don't know if they they're not making sure, hey, going to the media every day, we want Kirk back, and the next day we want Kirk back. Where did he go? Anyways, we got some production value there, but I
thought you disappeared, Dave, because I was looking in the top corner.
Yeah, there he is.
Sorry, fellas, accidentally X'd out of the.
We ejected him.
This is why Jamie needs to be here. He stops me from doing stupid things. Anyway, continue. What were you guys saying?
Well,
I was done.
I'll say this. To a point that was being made pre-production before we went live. Stuff comes out in the media, and you could never have a bigger disparity about how much of it is true and how much of it is a bologna sandwich. Because, as Doogie always says, why am I being told this? Why am I being lied to? Okay.
Stuff is put out by our guy.
Yeah. Stuff is put out by agents to try to get the stock up. Stuff is put out by the team to try to drive the stock down. All I'm going to say about Kwesi's comment about I want Kirk Cousins back. He's saying he wants Kirk Cousins back, but he's not saying I want Kirk Cousins back and I will pay any price to keep this guy. So let's be clear about what Kwesi does and doesn't mean, in my opinion, anyway.
Well, he said the word intention, which I go back to even Rick Spielman.
I was going to say,
we have no
intention of trading Percy Harvin. Yes.
And guess what? He was traded.
Yes.
Like, there's no reason to believe that Stephon Diggs won't be a Viking coming this time next year.
Just asking, guys. what has Kwesi done that makes you think has done that?
Done what?
Is that he's not, that he doesn't mean that he wants him back.
He accepted a job as a general manager because that's what they all do.
Yeah, that's kind of
that's like saying in a poker tournament, every time somebody makes a bet, they must have a good hand. No, you're playing chess. You're playing poker.
Let's put it this way: I want him back. Doesn't get him back. Now I failed.
No,
because I want him back. GM's going to say, "I want this guy back," and then fail to do so. I mean, it's not a glowing endorsement of your GM skills. I'm just
no, it's not. I want him back, and if he doesn't get him back, we'll turn into I wanted him back, but we could not agree on a price. Which, if you then backtrack it in hindsight, what he's saying
was your point. What was your point? That he wanted him back, or he doesn't want
wants him back at a certain price?
Okay, that's the point. I don't think anybody's not saying that. It has to be. I mean, he said it. He said he had to. It has to be agreed upon. But my whole point was that he said he wanted him back. I don't know why. And you agree, he wants him back. It's
for a certain price. Yeah.
I don't see the difference there. So,
which, by the way,
I apologize. The difference is the different
logo, by the way, Rap.
Yes.
Yeah, Vocal Vike.
Mick, thank you.
He didn't change his name though. Yeah. What's up? Shout out, Mick. Shocker that I agree with Mick's comment, but no, what I'm saying is I'm putting the qualifier on that he didn't put on there. Because if he comes out and if he says, I want Kirk back at a certain price, well, that gives more leverage to Kirk and his representation to say, oh, so you're saying you don't want me back at any price, which is where I started with this. And ultimately, you can tell the difference between last year when Kwesi says, yeah, we're hoping to get Kirk Cousins done if we can find the right price. Where when he talks about Justin Jefferson, he says it's champagne problems. Yeah.
And when you combine what Kirk says and the way Justin came out and said, it kind of lends you to believe that there's going to find common ground. I mean, that's just my viewpoint. And I'm just asking, where out there does anybody think that they don't want this to happen? Like I know it has to be at a certain point, but it all seems like they're all putting out the same message, So
either way. I don't know what their number. It would be nice to know, but they're not going to do it. It would be nice to know what their number is. Like, let's hypothetically say that Kwesi came out and said, I want Kirk Cousins back, but I'm not paying him any more than $30 million a year in new money because that would mean his cap hit is $40 million. That's my limit. Well, you're not going to do that because that kills your negotiation ability. Because if he takes it, then okay, great. But if he doesn't take it, then it's, oh, the Vikings were cheap. They should have offered Kirk more than $30 million a year in new money because Daniel Jones makes 40. So what the heck were the Vikings thinking? You don't put yourself in a position like that is all I'm saying. So, but we'll see. We'll see. I mean,
that's honestly like the first, I guess second. Justin Jefferson to me is the number one. Like if I'm looking at a list of things to get done this offseason, Justin Jefferson is number one. Like he could probably take number 1 through 5. Then number 6 is probably what you're going to do at quarterback. And that involves a whole lot of other factors, which I'm sure that we'll end up getting into throughout the duration tonight here. But let's, I know Dave, you kind of want to come into this talking about a little bit about coaching and everything and how the coaches perform. We're talking about keeping Justin Jefferson. We're talking about maybe keeping Kirk Cousins around. What do we have to do to keep Brian Flores around this year? Like what in this, like, is it just, does it come down to him not like loving a head coaching position and staying here? Does he maybe just decide to stay here another year anyway? What are your guys' thoughts on Brian Flores and how, I assume we all want him back, and what you think it would take, to get him to stay here for one more season?
I'll start because that's the topic I wanted to talk about. Was how the two main coaches did, and we're starting with Flores. So I think he probably didn't help his situation, not being able to adjust and giving up 30 points a game with the last 4 games, almost.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken, I had to look at it, but not being able to adjust. When we played zone like a lot, and it seemed like we had this when he dropped back and had 8 dropping back, because he does that more than he blitzes more than anybody. He drops 8 more than anybody, right? When he dropped 8, it seemed like they all did those 10, 15-yard in cuts, and they really were wide ass open. It was like I told Justin the other day, the Scooby-Doo reveal, and there was Ed Donatel defense, every once in a while where they'd give up 15-yard plays on deep in routes or 20-yard plays on deep in routes. So I was kind of worried why. Now it's 1 year, and he came out with this innovative defense that confused a lot of people. It's just it would have been nice to his first 3 games of the year, especially the Chargers game, for the defense not to give up like all the yardage, or the Philly game to not give up that yardage on the ground. And these last 4 games to give up all these points. If we don't give up 30 points a game, maybe we give up 24 points a game, we maybe make the playoffs, right? So I think, and it's funny that the offense kept chugging with, a backup quarterback in Nick Mullins. In fact, probably had more yards average than with Kirk.
Both
more turnovers, though.
Both Mullins and Hall had more air yards per completion than Cousins, and Cousins was up there too.
Yeah, we were throwing the ball downfield.
Yeah.
Well, and if you look at it, you probably have more air yards in the last 4 games Cousins played than his first 4, so.
Yeah, no, and that was for better or worse, O'Connell stayed pretty consistent with his play.
Yeah, I actually given a lot of credit to KOC to keep this offense chugging. He just had to play with 2 quarterbacks that lead the NFL in career interception percentage. It's like, oh my God. But they, Nick Mullins, I'm happy to have him back, but as a backup quarterback. But Flores, I think he made it hard for himself to get a head coaching job in the market of there's fan bases out there that do not want defensive coordinators as head coaches. And honestly, I would agree with them, because I would rather have the same offensive coach. I would rather have a head coach that's an offensive coach, because he'll be there every year. We've already seen what, changing offensive coordinators every year looks like. And then, but it's so much easier to keep a defensive coordinator long term. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's the preferred route of franchises. You guys can talk about add into the fact, where would you think he'd go? I don't really have an idea.
Do we know at all what Flores' contract was? Not necessarily the money, but
I'll look it up while you guys talk.
I was looking it up while you were talking, and I couldn't find it. But
I'll look for it. You guys talk.
I guess the question is he under contract right now? Because if he's under contract right now, then the question really boils down to, does he get offered a head coaching job that he would accept? Because if he doesn't, then I imagine he'll be back.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. I would agree. I think that's the only reason.
I did make a point a while ago that because of how his defense played the last few games, he better take any head coaching job if he wants one.
Well, and I think what kind of helps us there, I want the best for Brian Flores. I don't want him to have the league blackballing him or anything. But even if that's not the case, which I still think there is probably a little bit of stigma around him from an owner perspective, just because that's how those guys are. But even aside from that, I think what helps us is guys like Vrabel getting fired. Dan Quinn probably potentially looking for another head coaching job unless he just takes a Spagnuolo route. Wink Martindale's out. The Glenn in Detroit apparently has been interviewing or has received a phone call or something for the Chargers job. Like, there's a lot of candidates out there. And if there's any sort of, hesitation around bringing Brian Flores in as an owner, that might, kind of nudge them just enough towards these other candidates, which are pretty good. Especially if Vrabel, maybe Belichick goes somewhere, you know what I mean? Like, it's a really deep coaching class coming out. So I think that helps us too. So, maybe he just kind of waits out another cycle here and goes one more year. Cause I think either way, every off season, he's going to be, checking the other side of the fence to see if the grass is greener.
Right.
Great point.
And then it also kind of comes down to, I know people had talked about destinations for him, which if Belichick moves on from New England,
right,
he could be a shoo-in for the Patriots job. But now it really sounds like, Mike Vrabel is probably the guy that would be the front runner for that job. But have they said anything about Belichick? Like, what's necessarily going on there? Is he staying, or
they haven't said anything specific since that, few weeks ago when they made that announcement. We haven't had any finale to it yet.
Didn't he say I'm not leaving, and then it's basically puts it in the Kraft's hands? Didn't he say that?
Something like
probably
that.
Something like that. Yeah, but if he leaves there, I really do think Vrabel gets, because I was shocked, but also wasn't by the Vrabel firing. Like, I get it. Like, he'd been there for a while. They had a couple nice seasons. Then they kind of, usually when you have a couple losing seasons in a row after winning for a couple seasons, it's kind of like the message got stale. That thing comes out and then you move on from a coach. But like, I think he's going to get scooped up pretty quickly. And I do think the Patriots would be probably a pretty solid spot for him. Like another destination people are talking about was like, would Flores be up for the Chargers job, which I think David mentioned. It's tough. It's tough when teams like, usually when they have a defensive head coach and they fire him, they move on to an offensive head coach. And
right. You always go the opposite.
Well, and you're looking to think about him and his quarterback. I just go back to how he treated Tua, and you're going to take a defensive coordinator and put him with a prolific passer. I'm like, yeah, they're going to want to go offense, and they already had a defensive coordinator,
Yeah. So
it's like putting Mike Zimmer with Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Honestly. Yeah, exactly.
The Chargers
like
one,
that.
The Chargers one's a little weird though, because they just brought in Kellen Moore to call plays under Staley.
Yeah.
True.
So that one's a little weird. But I haven't heard anything of him like interviewing up or anything like that. It seems like there's still a vacancy there.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would love to see Flores stick around because I take a lot more from what I saw like when the defense was hot than what I do at the end.
Sorry to cut you off. How would you letter grade Flores for this season?
If you look at everything, I mean, I would probably give him a solid B. Like, it started off rough, but the defense was transitioning to a new scheme, which is going to happen. And I mean, you look at what's on this defense outside of like Daniil Hunter and the way Ivan Pace and Jordan Hicks played this year. Like, I guess you'd probably toss. I mean, I guess, okay, there's a couple players like those two, Metellus and then Cam Bynum played well too. But like outside of that, who else was really like DJ Wanham had a good season? I attribute that. I do like DJ Wanham. I attribute that more to getting the opportunity to consistently play across from Daniil Hunter for a full season when Daniil Hunter was used properly. But like outside of that, like what did he have to work with? Our corners were mediocre all year long, and that includes Byron Murphy. Harrison Smith.
I think he got more solid towards the end of the year, and I think he hurt us by not, when he went down.
Yeah. Yeah, but then like Harrison Smith, I'm sorry, like Harrison Smith was not Harrison Smith this year.
He's gone.
It's unfortunate. It does feel that way with him. But like, what did he really have to work with on the defensive side of the ball? Like, that's why I give him a B, just because you got what you could out of this defense. And the way I felt with this team all season long is Kevin O'Connell kept him right there for as long as he could as a team, focused. And then you get the TJ Hawkinson injury, to me was like the straw that broke the camel's back. And that's the way I feel about this defense. Like, he got so much out of him for as long as he could, but eventually it's like, you just can't, eventually it just kind of, the well dried out, and and it's just, you got as far as you could with the players you had, but at the end of the day, it just wasn't quite enough to keep being consistent.
Yeah.
I'll give him a C+. I give him an A+++ for the middle part of the season. I give him an incomplete for the first part while you were getting things to go, and then I give him an F- for the last 4 games. So when you put it together, it averages it out to be a C. I give him a C+ because you took the 31st ranked defense and then moved him to the 13th in scoring and 17th in yards. So you got to give him something for that. Yeah, obviously. Yeah. And this is one of the points that I made on my Monday show, which was a chef can only make so much with the ingredients that they're provided. You can't, you can scheme up a defense to a point over a 17-game season to where when you're going up against certain teams, or you have the element of surprise because it's early on in the season. I mean, yeah, they had their best defensive performances against the Saints and the Falcons and the Raiders. So, I mean, again, I give Flores credit, and I absolutely want Flores back, and I'd like to see what he can do with a full defense that isn't 3 or 4 high-end guys and a whole bunch of just okay guys, just a whole bunch of Jags, So,
yeah,
your kind of point there, the mental imagery popped into my head when you said chef. Do you guys watch like Master Chef or anything?
No, it's been a long time. I used to watch Chopped back in the day, but
yeah, they'll do these. I don't even know if that's the correct show. It's one of those shows. They'll do these challenges where, you get 4 ingredients and you have to pick them in like a draft. And it's like Flores got his filet mignon, or was just handed his filet mignon with Daniil Hunter. And then he had to jazz up like, some cabbage and some okra, and then he got like garbanzo beans, and he was like, all right, I'll just put them in zone match and send 6 of them. And it turned out to be one of those things where I think we saw both the floor and the ceiling of this group in rapid succession.
Yep.
through like the second part of the season and the final third of the season. And I mean, all that's kind of to say that I'm probably closer to like a B plus, maybe even teetering on an A minus. This is a group that was dead last in pass rush win rate. So he goes, all right, well, I'll send some crazy blitz packages, and then we'll kind of trust our guys on the back end. And for the most part, when they were healthy, when Murphy was in there, it was okay. But you ran into the same issues with all of this zone. Well, he went more to a zone match than a true zone with Donatel, but the issues on the back end were passing things off. More mental than they were talent based. And
Right.
he made it so that could be the case. He sort of neutralized the importance of the talent level on the front and the back end. And it was almost all scheme. I mean, Danielle Hunter, yeah, great year, but as a collective, last in pass rush win rate.
Oh,
you have a Caleb Evans with just reminded me how many missed tackles and how many blunders. And I know, we don't know what coverage he's in and all that, but not everybody was making those mistakes. He got these DBs tackling like motherfuckers. And that was an issue last year, tackling on the second level and third level. Cam Bynum, Josh Metellus were awesome. So, I think he really maximized what we had. And then once it came to where he was, figured out, I feel like there weren't really counters to it. Because then what do? You go, all right, well, let's play cover 2 man and see if we can get home with 4 when we can't get home with 6. And let's see if our guys can hold up in man coverage when they can't, pass guys off in zones. I don't think he ever really, and yeah, 13th in points, 17th in yards. I think that's well overperforming the talent he had. And I don't think there's very, very many other guys who would have brought it to that level. So I'm closer to A, but I think there are some huge issues with towards the end of the season. I mean, you got to just try other stuff. I think you just reach as deep into the bag as you can get in desperation time and just either get even crazier or just dial it back and see if that works. To your point, Justin, where we all wanted adjustments those last few games, and it's felt like the same game over and over.
Here's the thing, though. Their tackling the last 3 weeks was atrocious against Detroit,
and then that falls
Green Bay, and Detroit.
Caleb Evans had been a decent tackler most of the season. In these last few games, he was awful.
Yeah.
And to Chi-Town's point, you have no margin for error. A lot of teams can say if you took every NFL team and could put it on Madden mode where there are no injuries, okay, yeah, this is what our team or our defense or our offense looks when we're at 100% capacity. But this is the NFL, and now you're playing 17 games. The likelihood that you're going to be at 100% capacity is low. So it isn't what you do when you're at 100% capacity. It's what you do when you're not. I mean, there were times the last 4, 5, 6 games of the season where they were still bringing the blitz, and they were nowhere close to getting home. Jordan Love, I said this on my show. Jordan Love took the snap, baked 2 batches of cookies, fed one of those batches to his offensive line because he could circle between his offensive linemen and feed him those cookies because they weren't really being challenged all that much, and then throw a touchdown pass to a wide open wide receiver.
Okay. The Food Network now.
Well, you guys, he brought up gourmet chef earlier.
You guys are making me hungry. Come on now.
Yeah.
I actually gave a ride to a chef today.
Yeah. But, when you look at a course of a season long rankings, to me, I'm not saying that they're garbage, but what I'm saying is you have to look at them in context, because you could have 9 games where you pitch 9 shutouts, and then you could have 8 games where you give up 40 points, and then you're going to rank in the middle of the NFL when it comes to season long statistics. You have to say, well, yeah, you know what? We probably got 10 spots in our rankings just by completely shutting down the Raiders. As an example. Okay, I'm exaggerating, but you get my point. So again, I said, geez, and to Dave's point about the Scooby-Doo reveal, I'm like, this is no different than Donna Show, where he didn't make any adjustments at the first 2/3 of the season in 2022 under Donna Show. They gave up yards, but they came up with clutch plays, clutch turnovers, clutch stops on 4th down. The Indianapolis Colts game that I've referenced a few times. That was the first day I took my daughter to, and in the company I was with, but they weren't that bad against the Colts. They gave up 4 field goals and a touchdown in the first half for 19 points. The other 14 came off pick 6 and blocked touchdown. They only gave up 3 points in the second half. Now the Colts were garbage. We understand that. But for all of these comebacks, all these close games and everything else, yeah, the defense would look like trash for the first 3 quarters. And then in the last drive or two, they'd make a play or two. The game against the Jets, they got 2 fourth-down stops, and we won by 5 in the red zone. So Donachelle, for the first 2/3 before he got figured out, they managed to make that one play. This year, they didn't always make that one play. Yeah. And then when they got found out, they got found out for size.
Right. Well, and then like my biggest issue with Flores coming into the season is like, I mean, me and Jamie had conversations about this. Like the defense needed to get more aggressive, right? For sure. Mm-hmm. But then like Flores thing was like we knew he was going to bring the blitz, and I feel like that's and you notice a lot of times what teams would do to get us, like early on in games, just short throws, quick outs, that type of stuff, because that's what beats our defense. Because we don't play tight coverage and we blitz. Like with that, it's I feel like it was just way too easy to figure out. I mean, coming into the game, knowing Flores wants to be aggressive, just take care of that early, and then you're able to beat us deep later on in the game. So and again, it's part of that lack of adjustment, is part of that not being able to make adjustments because of the little bit you had, like because of the players you had on defense. I'm not sure, but that was one of my biggest concerns about Flores coming into the season. Like, was his defense going to be too easy to figure out just because he is so aggressive and he's known to be that way?
Right.
Well, yeah. And to Johnny's point about win rates and all that, I mean, well, keep in mind we dropped 8 more than anybody. Well, that means we were rushing 3 a lot.
That's on an individual level, though. The pass
individual, like you
so that's like
3 against 5,
the total average. Yeah,
I'm just saying it doesn't help, right? If you're going 3 against 5.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah, I mean that's probably true, but they're outnumbering them half the time too. It was weird. Like I feel like
I'm just saying 3 against 5. Doesn't help.
I feel like it started with that last drive against Chicago in the second. When they dinked and dunked up and down the field, and they realized guys like Justin Fields, guys like Jordan Love, that we felt like we were just going to absolutely expose with this type of defense and make them think and make them process everything. Those type of guys, and credit to Matt LaFleur, credit to Luke Getsy for one game, I guess. Right. For, because we're sending 6 a lot, right? You're playing a basketball zone in the back end. You're playing a 2-3 or a 1-4 with 4 deep and 1 guy under. And these guys realize, hey, if I can just backpedal and throw off my back foot to the flat
like Mahomes
11 times, we can probably run up the field on these guys. Yeah, we're going to come downhill and tackle, but you can get 4, 5, 6 yards. You send 4 routes out into coverage, stretch them deep, run a clear out to the flat side, and all of a sudden you're not going to be able to recover as these guys try to pass those deep routes off, because that's what they're going to prioritize. And then you go to the drop 8 stuff, and it's like, yeah, okay. But then we're dealing with so much time in the pocket that either, you have a dynamic guy like Justin Fields, who's able to extend it even further and make some plays with his legs, or even Jordan Love towards the end of the season was fantastic just as a thrower of the football. Jared Goff was great. We couldn't do anything against these like Amon-Ra St. Brown crossers, stuff like that. Not that many teams in the league can. He had 119 catches this year, but it was stuff like these last few games against these divisional opponents where they figured out how to kind of exploit that. That felt like where you needed to kind of have a come to Jesus moment about the whole attitude of this defense, in my opinion. Yeah. And I love the aggressiveness. Don't get me wrong. I love seeing we're first in 6-man blitz rate and 7-man blitz rate and all that shit. That's awesome. That's fun. But when Justin Fields is going to dink and dunk on you up and down the field, let's try and tighten that up a little bit.
Yeah. For sure. Hey, David, thank you for popping in. Appreciate it. Did you say anything about Scene? Quasi talked about Scene, and it didn't sound great.
Nope.
From what I took from it, did not sound like a glowing endorsement of his first round pick this year.
Well, just to wrap up your point, Johnny, whether you're talking about dropping 7 or dropping 8, how many times did we have 3rd and 18, 3rd and 20, 3rd and 21 get picked up on us? Third and dropping 7 or 8, theoretically, like, oh, okay. The quarterback is going to see a whole bunch of guys out there and is going to have to throw tight windows.
It's almost better in short yardage.
Yeah. None of it matters if your 3 or 4 guys that you're rushing get stonewalled. I mean, we were getting stonewalled on the blitz. We were getting stonewalled on just 3 and 4 man rushes. When I was talking the other day about, how the Giants as a 9-win team managed to win a Super Bowl, when I was talking about, what direction this team should be going in. When you have Michael Strahan, Justin Tuck, and O.C. Umenyiora, you can play drop 7, drop 8 all game long.
Yep.
And yes, the thing about guys like Tom Brady, even in their prime, or Peyton Manning, is they would invite the blitz because that's less guys that they have to go against, and they can pick you apart.
And then you can get away with Corey Webster as your CB1.
Exactly. And you can get away with the wide receivers that they rarely had outside of the year with Moss. But what I'm saying is that defensively, you can run your smoke and mirrors for a while. You can run smoke and mirrors against mediocre to bad teams and get away with it. But when you start going up against halfway competent teams, halfway competent offenses, you ain't gonna be able to do anything. I mean, again, Detroit, I'm surprised we were even as close as we were at times in both the games against Detroit.
I'm
shocked that we had a chance to win the first one. Yeah.
Justin, when you were talking about last year's group, it made me think about that last Detroit game, and frankly, both Detroit games. Last year's team, it feels like last year's team would have made those comebacks. Yeah. When Mullins, like those back-to-back deep shots that Mullins had week 18 to keep us in it, it felt like last year's group wouldn't have given up that final touchdown to put it back to a 2-score game. Yeah, I don't know why. It was just like it was a vibes thing. I have no analytical take on it.
But you're
right. They just made those plays. They tightened up.
Like I thought that was the big point of bringing Flores in. His aggressiveness would cause turnovers, and it really didn't nearly enough. Where like last year,
middle of the season,
like Justin said, you let them have all the yards they wanted, but eventually they made that play on defense to get the turnover.
Yeah, we punched at the ball a lot. So, like you said,
and then we got screwed on the recoveries half the time. Yeah.
Well, I think part of it last year was in the first 2/3 of the season, up to the Buffalo game, before Zadarius Smith got hurt. Zadarius Smith was the kind of player that, he didn't practice much because he was refueling the tank, and by game day he was fine. But when he got that knee contusion, then we get blown out by Dallas. Then we survive against the Patriots and the Jets. Then we get destroyed by Detroit, destroyed by Green Bay. Ultimately, Chicago was so bad last year that it didn't really matter. When you had Zadarius Smith, when he's healthy, and that's what they thought they would be able to do with Marcus Davenport, which clearly did not work. Okay. Marcus Davenport made Zadarius Smith look like the Kirk Cousins of defensive ends. He never gets hurt. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think part of that too is you never had a guy consistently. DJ Wanham is a solid rotational edge rusher. DJ Wanham, to me, I equate him to Brian Robeson. Okay. We all remember him when he was drafted in 2008. He was the third wheel behind Jared Allen and Ray Edwards. So he could just come in and be a pass rush guy on third down, play over the center. And then when he was asked to be a starter, he wasn't nearly as effective. Okay, let's fast forward to 2017 where you had Daniil Hunter and Everson Griffin, and he's the third guy again. That's what his role is, and that is what DJ Wanham is to me. But when you start asking DJ Wanham to be the number 2 pass rusher, okay, now you're asking him to do more than he might be capable of. So again, don't want to go too far overboard on the bit, but football is again in the trenches. It really is that simple.
And that's something like me and Jamie have been talking about that since last offseason. So, and we did a mock draft yesterday. We did a 3-rounder that will come out on our channel Friday, probably. So anybody that's in here, getting an early spoiler, what that looked like. We ended up actually trading back like 2 picks with the Raiders, and we grabbed Jared Verse at number 13. We grabbed JJ McCarthy in round 2, and we traded up in round 3, and we grabbed Tavondre Sweat out of Texas.
Oh, I love that guy.
I looked at that right there. I'm like, Jamie, if we do this, I know the excitement of a top 3 quarterback. I get it. I don't think it's realistic, which, I mean, going on to Dave's question here earlier, we'll talk about this a little bit later, I'm sure. But like, I don't see it realistic. So, I mean, but man, if you could come away with those 3 players with an edge rusher, a potential guy at quarterback you can mold who has that winning mentality as he showed us. I mean, I don't 100% love him, but I'd be okay with it. And then you get a 365 pounder in the middle of that defensive line that this defense has been sorely missed this last season. And I think it was one of the major needs we didn't address last offseason, which was disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine with those first 3 rounds right there.
Say that again. Who was the other guy besides those 2 defensive players?
It was Jared Verse, edge rusher, JJ McCarthy, and then Tavondre Sweat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was the biggest miss last year coming in the offseason was not getting a nose tackle.
Harrison Phillips ain't a nose tackle. I'm sorry.
Right.
I like Harrison
Good player,
Phillips,
though.
Harrison Phillips is another guy just like DJ Wanham. He is a solid rotational piece. But if you're asking him to be your starter, he's not a big fat run stuffing guy up the middle. In a 4-3 all day. In a 4-3 all day. Absolutely.
Yes, you keep, I think, you go Tavondre Sweat, you get your 1 technique, and then you put Harrison Phillips at, 3 tech 4 eye, because he's fantastic against the run. You can find 3 to 4 plays from each game on all 22 where you're like, oh yeah, Harrison Phillips absolutely wrecked shop. He stalled drives, especially early in the season, entire drives, batting passes down, stuff in the run. He's the main reason we were even close to competent against the run. And I think you lighten that load for him a little bit with a guy like Tavondre Sweat, who is a menace. You can kick him out to 3, and then you get an interior pass rusher in free agency, a guy who can seriously, maybe that's the last legs of like a Danico Autry or something like that. From Tennessee. There's a regime change going on over there. Maybe there's a younger guy you can find, but in particular, what really weighted down that pass rush win rate was the pass rush win rate of the collective interior. Jaquelin Roy showed some flashes.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
Are a huge deal.
I was going to bring up Roy. He can do it. I don't know if it's in flashes or consistency is going to be an issue. We'll find out.
To get back to commenters Dave's point, do you feel we move up to draft Daniels or May? If we did, I'd be ecstatic.
Right. Yeah, for sure. But me and Jamie were talking about it. Like, where do you go? Because pick one, Chicago. If they trade out of that, which I put my foot down. I do not think they will. I think they trade Justin Fields. I think they take Caleb Williams at that pick, but they're not going to trade with us, even if they do decide to trade out. And I think Washington and New England are teams that want to draft a quarterback. So and that's what Jamie was saying last night. He's like, I just don't want everybody in the chat to get their hopes up. Because I think those guys are going 1, 2, 3. And I just don't think you're going to be able to give enough to sway Washington or New England from not taking one of those guys. Like, unless if New England's sitting at 3 and Williams and May go 1, 2, and they don't like Daniels, then maybe they back out of that spot. But I don't know. I personally just don't foresee those
things may change
not
though.
Taking quarterback.
I think you're most likely that
we might be looking at game film or whatever.
Well, right. Yeah, there's a ton of offseason left for sure. Like Teddy Bridgewater, number 1 overall pick till his pro day. Like,
right.
Yeah, you're most likely
didn't wear his gloves.
There has got to be Washington.
It's
got to be Washington
because maybe
you've
maybe
seen
they're
some
good with
things from Sam Howell.
Yeah,
but they also might feel like they're too far away anyway. They just traded their 2 premier edge rushers.
Yeah.
They might tear the whole defense down. Jonathan Allen's pissed.
And that's what me and Jamie were talking about as well. Yeah, for sure. That there's a team that might be like, we'll just take a stopgap guy for now, build the team around him. So when we do decide to go for that guy, but can you sit there and be looking at, let's say you look at Drake May and he's there for you for the taking? Like, man, this guy is supposed to be a high level talent. Like,
he's my number 1 guy, by the way.
That's
right.
Tough.
But if you're sitting there at 2, it's like, man, we don't have the team, but damn, can we pass on this guy right now?
Yeah,
I don't know.
They're going to have to pass on 3 first-round picks, and
that's true. That is another
seconds.
Great point.
And
me and Jamie were saying, if they like somebody over, if they think that Williams goes 1 and the Patriots really like Drake May, would they trade with Chicago? Would Chicago drop 2 spots to give Patriots number 1? I don't know. It's interesting.
Here's what you have to hope.
Up with Chicago, all of a sudden you're having a QB drop to 4.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. You have to hope that somebody trades with Chicago and takes Caleb Williams 1. And that, let's say it is New England, and let's say that Chicago just wants to drop back a couple spots there. You have to hope that Marvin Harrison Jr. gets picked before the 3rd quarterback is picked, because then you got a shot.
Yeah.
If let's just say that New England trades up with Chicago and it goes Caleb Williams, either May or Daniels at 2, and then Chicago takes Marvin Harrison Jr. at 3, then you trade up with Arizona to guarantee yourself that you get the third one.
Right.
You know,
but like I know, but people are saying like, get up there before the draft even starts. But like if you're going to trade up before the draft starts, you're trading top 3 because trading to 4, trading to 4 gets you nothing. Because I remember there was one year the Timberwolves traded up to like 6 in hopes of getting Darius Garland. They got stuck with Jarrett Culver. Like
funny.
If you trade up too early and you're not in the top 3, what the hell is the point, right?
Yeah,
if you like all 3 quarterbacks equally and you're content with getting one, then if you're going to trade before the draft, you have to get to the spot to guarantee you that.
Absolutely.
You can't bank on somebody saying, well, one of these 3 teams.
Well, then you have to also have to like all 3, right?
Right. That's another thing.
Well, then if you move up to 4, then there's other teams like, oh, Minnesota's at 4. We got to get up to top 3 then because they're taking a quarterback at 4.
Yeah, you're not trading beforehand.
No.
I think you're probably gonna do what we probably did this last year and hope they drop to an attainable level. You know, because like you just said,
so scary, though, if you really like somebody,
and you got Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, and Daniel Jones, 4, 5, and 6, and Giants maybe putting up smoke.
Yeah, you just gave me like a saving Private
you're
Ryan.
Probably looking more at Cardinals and Chargers,
right?
Yeah,
for sure.
You just gave me like a saving Private Ryan shell shock moment with that Jarrett Culver trade up.
Yeah, that was sure something. Kofi, Kirk's coming back, so trade down if you're not trading up to get made. Trade back, get more picks, get Beefalo the defensive players he needs.
What'd you get for trading down 2 spots? Give away the spoiler.
What's that?
Yeah.
What'd you get for trading down 2 spots?
For who?
In your mock draft, you said you traded down 2 spots. What was the return?
Right. We got a first round swap and we got an extra 3rd round pick, I think.
Hi, Kevin.
Well, that's a 3rd round pick. We don't have one.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. Which we then used like that and another one to trade up higher into the 3rd and grab Sweat.
Okay. Good job, man.
Sense.
Yeah.
Good job.
And we also was a 3-round mock, so we just said screw it. We traded
none
like
of those players will be there.
Sure we got it. We weren't drafting that far. But
how far did you have to get up to get McCarthy?
We didn't. He fell to us.
Oh, he fell to 11 in the 2nd round.
44. Yeah. Yep. He fell to us. So, and again, I'm not a huge McCarthy guy, but here's the thing. It's like
in the 2nd round, do you live with it?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Because the 2nd round isn't that big of an investment to where like next year, if you suck and you get like a top whatever pick, like I'm a Quinn Ewers guy. And I think with one more year in college, I think he could end up being really, really good. So like, I wouldn't mind grabbing him next year, but again, you always don't want to you don't want to think, oh, we'll just get our guy next year.
And to think about McCarthy is that he still has eligibility left, right? So it's like he's still young. He can grow underneath. And obviously, this is a scenario where Cousins is re-signed. Because otherwise, we're probably going, holy shit, we didn't re-sign Cousins. The draft is happening. We're going to do whatever we can to go get that quarterback.
Yeah, right? Until March 15th, you need a caveat to any mock you do, whether Kirk's
right, exactly. Well, this
is a Kirk Cousins re-signs scenario. Yeah.
Well, like, and that's why it's so tough to like talk about the offseason because we don't know what it's going to be until free agency hits. Because like if Kirk goes to Atlanta, then we're sitting here like things are real now. Like they need to make a move. They need to not screw this one up. And does that force them at pick 11 to say, hey, Michael Penix is sitting there at pick 11. Do we just pull the trigger because we need a guy? And that's the thing. And that's why I bring up the Ponder argument. And I get it. You can't say I don't want a 1st round quarterback because of Ponder. That's not fair. Like that's dumb reasoning.
But that's almost the exact same scenario as
but I'm I just don't want I want them to be convinced that the guy that they pick can be their guy. Because let's be honest, like a 1st round quarterback, like for a 3rd year GM and head coach, like you are putting your careers on the line that this guy is going to work out for you, right?
Yep.
So like I don't want them to feel like they need to take a quarterback and then reach and grab a guy that they don't love at that pick just because they're afraid of what might happen. And from a fan base perspective, if they don't get into the top 3 and they trade back to middle of the 1st round, it's not going to be good. The fan base will revolt. We know that. We've seen what it looks like out there, especially on Twitter, which you can't take Twitter for fan base law, but it kind of is. But I mean, it's just one of those situations where
they all think we're going to trade to 32.
Right. But if you trade back,
that's the key.
One of those, it's weird.
It's one thing if you're at 11 and you trade back to 14 versus 12 to 32.
Yeah.
I want them to trade up. That's the direction I want them to go.
What if we traded up and got a defensive player or non-quarterback?
I don't think you'd trade up for a
I don't
defensive
think
player
you
though.
would.
You would.
I mean, I wouldn't. I won't. I don't want him to.
Here's the thing: top 10 picks. You're thinking 3 quarterbacks. You're thinking probably 3 receivers, an offensive tackle. Joe Alt, I know he's way up there. Then how many like defensive players you have there? You got a couple corners. You got a couple edges.
Jerzon Newton.
Yeah. So like
that tackle.
There's going to be a defensive player that's going to fall to you at pick 11 if you want to go take him there. So I don't think you would need to trade up to get a defensive player just because there are so many offensive weapons here that are going to be going top 10 to the first round.
And then there's a situation of how many free agents we have and how many holes we got to fill. And what a way to do that, like the Patriot way: trade down, get more picks; trade down, get more picks.
That is true, Hopi.
And building the roster, so you may see us do that: trade down and a couple of times and get more picks.
And Barbara, I get your point here, but trading down, I don't. Trading down isn't really blowing the pick. It's what you do with those picks. It's value and what you do with the picks after you trade down. Like I was fine with. I'm going to sound.
I was wanting to take Andrew Booth Jr. in the 32nd pick, so I'm like
I was okay with Kwesi's first draft trade that he made with the Lions, and the more I looked at it, I'm like, oh, what was I thinking back then? Like that was not. Like I get it, it's like 30, like 34, whatever is basically like you're getting a first. You're probably going to get a first round talent there, but then you trade it back again. So now that I look at that was dumb, but like I just don't think you can look at a trade just thinking if he trades back, it's a loss. Like it all depends on value and then what you do.
I mean, you gotta like the players. Like we dropped down 5 spots because I liked all 5 of those players.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Like that's
like
the
the Cowboys one year. They famously, when we had 3 first-round picks, they famously had 3 guys right there, and all of them got taken. And we took the guy right before them, and we could see their draft board, and it got put around the media, and you could see the picks they wanted, and they just, I think they traded down, I don't know, but but traded down too far, and every one of their guys went.
I mean, here 2 things on that. We'll remind folks that Rick Spielman traded back and still ended up with Christian Darrisaw.
14 to 23.
So he got 9 picks back. I don't remember what the haul was that we got. It doesn't really matter. It was something. You still got your guy. Now.
Yeah.
And then Kellen Mond.
Well, there's that.
And Wyatt Davis. Anyway, go on.
And that day. So
did we have 4 third-round picks that year?
Something like
that.
All gone.
Yes. So when he traded back from 12 to 32, if he had gotten a first-round pick from Detroit, because Detroit had 2, they had theirs plus they had the Rams because of the Jared Goff / Matthew Stafford trade. If they had gotten a first-round pick the next season, then that trade, you don't leave money on the table. You regardless of the guys you picked and regardless how they turned out, you say, okay, you maximize trading back 20 slots, but he didn't get that. And in addition to
I think we would have been happy with that, right?
Then he would have been like, okay.
Yeah. That felt like tunnel vision on last year's draft board. Or that
my first thought is we must have got a first-round pick.
Exactly. And not the first-round pick swap now, mind you, not swapping an additional one, right? Yep. So, again, if you move back from 11 to 15 and you get an additional 4th or 3rd round pick, whatever that ends up being, and you still get the guy you want, fine. I have no issues with that. If you're going to trade back from 11 to say 21, you better be getting, a 2nd round pick this year or a 1st round pick next year, whatever. It's got to be worth it to you either immediately or in the future. But he didn't get any one of those. I don't care if we win a Super Bowl, and I don't care if every player that was taken in all those dipsy doodle trades by Kwesi become Hall of Famers. It doesn't change the fact that he left money on the table, that he should have gotten more for it.
Right.
But,
and that's the thing. If he's going to make another trade down, like you need to see that and that's it's a development thing, right? Like if he makes the same type of deal, you're like, okay, what have you learned from this? And like, I think last year, like he probably there's enough talent there where he could have traded back, and they were I think they were talking about it, but then they just said, you know what,
right now,
screw it, just take the guy we want. Let's just get it done with. Let's not get cute. We love what Jordan Addison could be. They took him, and look how that worked out.
I just don't want, because that moving down to from 12 to 32, I think all of us.
Johnny hated the Addison pick.
Almost, yeah, I did. Almost every Vikings fan going 12 to 32. We knew. If hindsight's always 20/20, but everybody knew that Jordan Davis and Kyle Hamilton were
I was
like
Jordan
that.
Davis.
We knew they were like that. And then, you know, Kyle Hamilton, sure, water under the bridge. We ended up with this sick-ass nickel will linebacker safety in Metellus, and he kind of blossomed, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But to this day, we need a Jordan Davis.
Yep.
Oh, God.
And honestly,
don't just
after
trade
Harrison
back for the
Smith
sake of
leaves,
it.
we need a Kyle Hamilton. Like, we need another safety to take that Harrison Smith role.
Now we do. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
It was
Took a
seen
little
better.
longer,
Hey, I'm going to tell you guys, there's this kid from a small town in northern Minnesota called Esco, which is where I grew up, playing for the Gophers this year. Just number one recruit in the state of Minnesota named Coy Parrish. Future Viking, future number one safety on this team. Count it. Number one recruit out of the state of Minnesota going to the Gophers to play safety. I'm excited.
How about Tyler Newbin this year?
Exactly, right?
Ayuma.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, but yeah, now we need a safety, and that's kind of unfortunate.
Do we? I mean,
I don't know if you can just plot Metellus back there now because he's in the role that he's in this defense. It's so
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's what we were talking about earlier.
We
about
had
giving
three
somebody a good role
safeties
for it.
playing. 3 safeties played almost 100% of snaps.
Yeah.
This year, you know, so if
We had 6
Flores
on the
is back,
Mhm.
if Flores is back, you're probably going after one.
Yeah.
But that's
Not
the
early,
key too.
though.
No,
You
not
wanna-
really.
Maybe not. Yeah.
If we draft a safety in the first 3
Right.
rounds that doesn't have an S on his chest, I'm going to freaking kill.
Or
It's like
bring
Zimmer and
Antoine
his
Winfield
cornerback.
Jr. home.
What'd you say, Johnny?
Bring Antoine Winfield Jr. home.
Oh.
There we go.
Is he
Love
free?
He
that.
can play deep. Cam can kind of be your strong and run Phil, and Metellus can do all his weird shit.
Well, that's the thing. We could really solve some issues. Think about it. We were negative 20 million going to last, and I know if we re-sign Kirk, it'll be different. But negative 20 going into last year, and we were and now we're positive like 37 going into this year. And I saw someone work it out where we could get to positive 70. You know, so there are opportunities to bring somebody in, like you said, an inside edge rusher, or for, you know, God forbid, we need maybe a corner. You know, we definitely need a corner.
Right.
Safety is probably like down the road for me.
Yeah.
I don't want to see another safety get drafted. It's like Jay Ward.
Well,
I was like, get somebody else. We don't need.
Yeah, I think I
Like, I
like
just look
Mekhi
at it-
Blackman, but he feels like that DJ Wanham.
Yeah,
level,
like a
where,
role,
he's
role
a nice
player.
third
Decent.
outside corner.
He's gonna be good. He's good. I think he's athletic. The bonehead not going after that throw against what the Cincinnati.
Higgins?
That'll always piss me off. But
Totally agree,
most of the time, guy was pretty on point.
Mhm.
And you brought it up earlier. I was impressed most of the time this year with our defensive backs tackling. And I think one of the guys that can tackle really good is Andrew Booth Jr. I think if he steps in and becomes a starting cornerback, that would mean a lot, you know.
Right. Yeah, that is right now. That's found money. If you have some internal development that can be an actually good starter, especially as a defensive back
For
for
sure.
this
Like,
you gotta bank.
I
You can't
feel
bank
when
on
I've
it.
got some high end guys, I feel good about our depth. Then, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
For sure. And I just I look at this team and I get it. The offensive line could be better, obviously. But I mean, if I look at what we have on this team right now, if quarterback is the only position on offense that I'd be drafting, I think. I mean, maybe a late guard or something, but I think there's so many needs on defense that outside of quarterback, I would spend every draft pick we have on defense. I don't know if that's just me. I want to know how you guys feel about that. Do you think that would be a fair assessment that quarterback and then defense the rest of the way? Or just defense? Or is there anything on offense you would draft this year?
I think if you want to fill any holes on the offensive side, you can kind of do that with stopgap free agents. Like if you want to try and replace KJ's production, for example, or
Brandon Powell could stick around for KJ.
Yeah, Powell could stick around if you want to get another guard into the mix.
I'm getting tired of saying Jalen Naylor, man, but he keeps getting hurt.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
damn it.
Johnny Munt is a free agent. Might have to replace.
Yeah, holy shit,
like
man.
that's
What
what
TJ's gonna be out at least the first 3 quarters of the season. You'd think. that tight end is kind of a scary spot.
Oh,
right?
I don't know
You're not
about that.
gonna-
I think 9 months. I think that puts him in October.
Does it? Even with the multi-ligament? I guess I don't
I
know.
did a video and I put that the 6 months is the earliest you can come back from the 2, and then each month afterwards. And I was like, okay, that would put us at the end of September, if not October. So I thought maybe end of October he could come back.
Yeah.
But again, that's if all things go good.
Right. So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting draft. Like, I don't know. Kwesi has quite the job here. And he said that. He's like, that's why he said big offseason. Like he knows, he knows what he signed up for and he knows what he has to do right now. And it's.
Oh, you know what's crazy? I saw this today that we only have 11 players on our team from the Zimmer, Spielman era.
Something like that. Yeah.
That's crazy.
But we're just running it back every year.
We're running it back.
Yeah. Let's see what Lawrence, my dad, by the way, everybody. Love played weak defenses last few games. Let's see how he does against Dallas. Yeah, in Dallas too. That's gonna be a big one. If he plays well there, he might earn my respect just a little bit.
Because that O-line's not what we're used to either. He's been pretty impressive, I think.
Yeah. Let's not talk about the goodness of the Packers. Let's just.
Oh, my bad.
Is your dad in his 50s?
Yeah.
Ooh, how about goodness of the Vikings? All 4 of our tight ends who played meaningful snaps finished in the top 18 in PFF grade.
So not only do we have the 3rd best tight end in the league, we have the 4th best. We have the best 4th tight end in the league.
Yeah. I love that comment by O'Connell. We have the best number 3 tight end in the NFL.
Come on. Hey, let's hit the reset button. If you guys didn't hit those like buttons on the way in, hit them on both channels.
Absolutely.
GG Sports, Minnesota Sports Talk.
If you're not subscribed to either of these two guys, plug your channels for a second, you two. If no one
Go
here,
ahead, Johnny.
Sure they are, but
subscribe to Bite
Size
Size
Sports. Popping up?
I don't know. Yeah,
but I like bringing one back.
For days. If you're not subscribed to them, go do that right now.
Yeah, Dave's stepping all over it
right now. Then come back. Steve, our Packer fan friend on the show. Thank you.
Hey,
for
Steve.
in. You just missed our talk about how bad Jordan Love is. We may have said some nice things about him. I don't really know, but
I blacked out too.
I'll say this about Jordan Love real quick. Love. He's a competent quarterback, and I'll give him credit for that because I didn't even think he was going to be that. I'm not ready to put him in the fast track for the Hall of Fame. I'm not ready to say that the Packers did it again. We need to see a little bit more from him, but I will give him credit where credit is due. He looks at minimum to be competent, and
they definitely did.
We made him look like Daniel Jones.
Well, yes,
we made him look like we did Daniel Jones last year because everybody's so wide ass open, so it's hard to tell. But yeah, he was definitely played well down the stretch.
Maybe that was the Vikings' plan all year long: get the Packers to stick with Jordan Love, get the Bears to stick with Justin Fields. That's the plan all along.
Yes,
we're playing 3D chess here.
Exactly. The plan all along is let's just get them to stick with these quarterbacks.
Yeah. Kurt goes down and they're just like, all right, let's
make the other quarterbacks look good.
Yeah, let's let these guys look good. Exactly. Anyway, you were saying, I didn't mean to cut you. I was just saying, I wanted to at least say, hey, you know what? I was hoping Jordan Love would just end up being trash, but hey, you know what? He looks solid. I don't like the Packers' chances against the Cowboys, but he looks like he's got something anyway. So
yeah, and he's got a couple good pass catchers over there too. Christian Watson is what he is this year, but
can't get healthy, right?
Right, but Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, if Christian Watson becomes that number 1 receiver they're hoping for, that's a good trio right there. It's a good trio. But again, we keep talking good about the Packers here. That's not what we're supposed to do.
Right. Anyway, moving on.
This is Packer Central.
But anyway, so we obviously we kind of got, so Brian Flores, are we all in agreement? We'd like to see him back next year, mainly just because I don't want to see this defense go through another change. Like these guys, they learned one defense. I understand not everybody's going to be back next year, but I still, for the guys that do come back, I would still like to see them keep developing under this same coaching staff. So that's kind of where I'm at. Well, when it comes,
he can self-scout, build on what he did. He was innovative, but we had the whole dropping back into zone every freaking as much as he did. You're kind of wanting to see him mix it up a little bit. And yeah, he was playing with just a defensive line that couldn't get to the quarterback. And I know Justin talked about Wanham being, good rotational guy, but if we had like defensive lineman that could get after the quarterback, right?
And that's
we're playing
the
one
problem.
outside linebacker, right?
Yeah.
So if we get some interior rush, that would help us so much.
For sure. Yep. So I guess let's flip to I guess when you flip to the other side of the ball, you're looking at team leadership as well as offensive coordinator. And this man over the last month and a half has become probably just about as divisive as Kirk Cousins has of this franchise, and that is head coach Kevin O'Connell. Now, I will go on record saying I'm a Kevin O'Connell fan. I think he knows a lot about ball. I think he's a very good head coach. I think he's a great leader of men. I think the players want to play for him. Now, I was critical of him from the jump about, yep, absolutely, Bite Size Sports. And you'll put his up, Purple and Gold for days. Hit those subscribe buttons on their channels for sure. But, I mean, it's fair to say that from a play caller perspective and everything else, there's a lot of room to grow. And when it comes to some of his overall game planning as well, there's a lot of room to grow. And I get it this year. I do think he gets a pass because of the injuries. I get every team dealt with injuries, but he was dealing with backup quarterbacks plus injuries and a lot of other things that kind of went on that were really weird. So I'm a fan of Kevin O'Connell, but year 3, as we said with Kwesi, is going to be huge for Kevin O'Connell as well. Like, he needs to, again, he's shown us really good things, but yet he's shown us really, really bad things. So that's my opinion on O'Connell. I like him. I think he's going to be a really good head coach for this team. But if you're going to be the offensive play caller, that is what the fan base is going to know you for first.
And he's got to call more run plays. Period. Yes. Point blank.
Yes.
I'm
like
C.
Still exists.
I'm like C+, maybe B- on KOC this year. There was so much meat on the bone for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the full crucifixion of him.
Right, I agree with that.
Yeah. There's 20 worse play callers in the NFL.
I'm gonna say this real quick. We talked about it earlier. If you draft a quarterback, your clock might get reset. We were talking earlier about, hey, this is the third year.
Yeah.
But Kevin O'Connell, he doesn't walk on water, but the crucifixion, as you said, was way too much. I just got that notification that I told you guys about here. So unfortunately, I'm going to dip out here. Hit those like buttons on the way out. If you don't already subscribe to Bite Size Sports and Purple and Gold for days, hit us up with a sub. We're going to have great content all throughout the offseason. And we might do this a little bit more now that, it's the offseason here.
Absolutely.
So thank you, everybody. Gentlemen, pleasure as always to sit in with you. Y'all have a good one, okay?
Yeah, thanks for having in, Justin. Appreciate you. Yep.
For me, KOC, honestly, I felt like he grew a little bit because except for in one area, I was like big thing, like he didn't make tough decisions. Well, he makes a decision. Unfortunately, I mean, to give him not as much credit, a lot of those decisions were made because of injuries. Like going with Ty Chandler, going more with Jordan Addison. Those were my biggest complaints throughout the year. And I think he may have now realized, well, God, I should have went with those guys. Maybe that is a growing experience for him. I think recency bias. We all think like, God, what a bad play call. But then we're like looking at having our rookie quarterback, not seeing 3 fucking open guys out there.
Yeah,
and we're seeing only the offensive line and the quarterback, and nobody's open. What a triple play call. No, they were freaking way wide open. And the same thing with Dobbs. There's like a Jordan Addison breaking free, but there's a linebacker just sitting there in the middle, and he doesn't throw to the area where Jordan Addison can just run underneath it. And I think the play calling wasn't nearly as bad as people think. In fact, I'm like, we had our backup quarterback throw for almost 400 yards twice. And I'm like, there's something good about that. But on my downside is he's got to figure out this running game, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
He said we may are focusing on this running game, and half of it was not playing Ty Chandler enough at the beginning of the year.
Right, and that's one of Jamie's main gripes. Is like Jamie's a Kevin O'Connell guy as well, but he's like, but you can't ignore the fact that it takes him too long to put, like, KJ Osborne was wide receiver 2 for the first 4 games of the season. He's like, it takes him too long to put those exactly. Like, it took Ty Chandler and Alexander Madison injury for him to get out there. Like, and I agree with Jamie on that. There's definite questions about like, why aren't these guys seeing the field sooner? Like, what's the reasoning here?
So I think because he may have learned by accident, that, hey, these guys are good, but now we don't have that problem. We have a Ty Chandler who looks like he's going to unless we draft somebody, right?
And Alexander Madison is a good running back. I think he needs to be in the role he was with Dalvin Cook. He needs to be in the role he was with Dalvin Cook, where he needs to have like 20% of the snaps just because he is such a change of pace from a Ty Chandler.
It's that DJ Wanham.
Exactly.
And making him hungry.
Right.
And I think a lot of it with the run game in particular is schematic at this point. I think, we have some good flashes where we're really able to move the ball. But you look at and again, there's 31 teams that aren't able to do that to this level, but you look at how Miami uses their run game so dynamically to do a ton of pin and pull. They do these little misdirect tosses on a pistol. They do all kinds of weird shit, and I think a lot of that from a schematic standpoint in the run game, Mike McDaniel, formerly the run game coordinator for the Niners, I think a lot of that sort of buoys the offensive line in Miami, which coming into the season, a lot of people thought would be atrocious. Teron Armstead goes down. All of a sudden, you got like Robert Hunt playing at an all-pro level for a lot of people. And I can't think of the other tackle's name, but it'll help these O-linemen too if, from a schematic standpoint, the run game is a little bit less predictable.
I think we need to bring in, and I've said this, but not on air for some reason, that I think we need to bring in a run coordinator.
We got a guy,
hire a guy that does that.
We got a visit from sorry to pause you guys. We got a visit from Jamie here at the Wolves game. 85-79 lead for the Wolves going into the fourth quarter. Jamie, we appreciate you hopping in here, man. I hope you're enjoying the game. Looks like you got a good one. Anyway, go ahead, guys. Sorry.
No, you're good. But I think, when they did run this year, it was like, all right, let's run our run play and see if that, you know what I mean? Like, it felt very static. With how they ran the ball. There were a couple times you saw, some goofy flashes. There was that like double reverse to Ty Chandler middle of the season that got called back. It was a touchdown up the right side.
I hated the reverse to Justin Jefferson
in the high red zone.
Game.
Reverse to Justin Jefferson to throw it, and Johnny Munt doesn't pick up Aiden Hutchinson. That's fine. But I don't know. I think that the passing game from a schematic standpoint, a game plan standpoint, is phenomenal. I'd love to see some more of those tunnel screens that we saw a lot last season. JJ got a couple big first downs on those. They'd run them on like 3rd and 11. Those tunnel screens where you're kind of coming towards the line of scrimmage and following the O-lineman up as opposed to them getting out to the flat. I think you could add some more elements like that, and especially if Ty Chandler is your full-time RB1, screen game's got to be a huge emphasis, I feel like. But you've got that speed. I think you could lean into some stuff a little similar to what Miami does to just make the run game a little bit more dynamic and less predictable to kind of complement the pass game a little bit better. Because I think that game plan, the route concepts and the way those develop, and when you've got a good trigger man behind that game plan, I think it works really, really well. Mullins at least understood where the ball should go on this play. Jaron Hall wasn't even watching the mesh point when they'd run mesh. He missed KJ on a wide open drag route like 3 times that game.
And Dobbs, one of the things one of the big complaints is misnomer though was Kirk Cousins captain check down, right? Well, I mean, a lot of quarterbacks check down and get yardage. Dobbs would not even look to check down.
Austin, thank you.
And you know what I'm saying? Like, we weren't getting any yardage. It was either try to throw it down the field or run or get sacked. But there's a guy out there in the flat that he could have just checked down to.
Yeah.
No, this is more on Mullins and the play calling of Kevin O'Connell. Like, some of the bright spots. Like, I know we always talk shit about O'Connell and how he would go for it on 3rd and 1. He'd throw the ball deep. That game against Detroit, the shot that they took to JJ for that touchdown, that was such a good play call, and you threw it to the right guy. Like, I do got to shout out our boy Too Evil with the regular show $5 donation, as well as the recommendation that the Minnesota Vikings completely blow it up and start over. But we appreciate you. We appreciate you, Too Evil, even if I don't.
Well, he's moved on from Carson Wentz, apparently.
Yeah, where's the Carson Wentz?
That's progress. That's progress.
Right? But yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I feel like Kevin O'Connell's just on the cusp, but there's things he needs to learn, and he's learning to be a head coach and a full-time offensive play caller on the job this year. So like
this whole idea, hey, just give it up to Wes Phillips. Like, what do we know about Wes Phillips?
Right. Well, and here's
Nepo
the thing.
baby.
And here's the
What's
thing.
that?
Nepo baby.
Yeah. What do we know about him calling plays? Why would you give up play calling to a guy who's never called plays either?
Right. And Kevin O'Connell is going to be the guy like, hey, here's the offense I want to run. Like he's going to be the master. He's going to be the guy behind the offense. It's not like he's just going to give up on the offense completely because he's an offensive-minded head coach.
Yes. And he was the OC without play calling duties in LA. He's seen that.
He was responsible for putting game plans together. So I mean,
exactly.
He had a role, and he wasn't just sitting there earning a paycheck. He was designing the game plan.
Right. So he understands that dynamic between a play calling head coach and an offensive coordinator who, is more of an advisor, is able to zoom in a little bit more than the head coach. But ultimately, he's calling the plays. And, what do you guys think about this? I've seen this. I've seen both sides of this from people, and I'm sort of in the middle. When we got to the backup quarterbacks, I mentioned at the top of the show that both Mullins and Jaron Hall finished top 10 in air yards per completion. Small sample size for both, of course. But do you think he should have kind of incubated those backups a little bit more in a way similar to what they did with like Case Keenum when they would just give him like half field reads and quick concepts?
I think so.
I thought the exact same thing.
Especially with Dobbs. 5 days here.
There's something to be said about staying aggressive and trusting your guys, but those aren't the guys to trust, I don't think. Or it should have been Mullins right when he came off IR.
Well, here's the deal.
Go ahead, Dave.
I want to get my point. Come on.
No,
can I say something?
Yeah,
can I say something?
I'll zip the lip.
I agree. Except for the point they were giving up 30 points a game. I mean, he had to. And Mullins can throw, so it was like, it's like Mullins wouldn't have thrown all those picks if he wasn't having to come from behind as much as he had to.
That's part of it.
Yeah. In one game, sure, he threw a couple early ones, but this last one, he didn't throw to till the end of the game.
Well, how about like the Vegas game? You got to get more than 3 points. I mean, we won the game, of course, and you adjust to the flow of the game and everything. But I think particularly right away when you trade for Dobbs and you're like, all right, fuck it, we're starting him. I think you've got to dumb it down even a little bit more because he was just missing. I mean, he was missing reads on basic concepts.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, but
I think people are still wanting. Would still rather had.
Yeah.
People on Twitter were still voting like they would rather have the other two quarterbacks than Mullins, and I'm like, I don't know what you're watching here.
Yeah,
but Mullins runs the offense so much better.
Like, Nick Mullins, and that's why like me and Jamie talked about Nick Mullins between the 20 or from honestly between the 20s. Really, like the reason that he is a backup quarterback is because of the mistakes he makes in the red zone. And he made too many boneheaded mistakes in the red zone. Things get tight, and that's the reason.
Well, and you look at KOC though. We were complaining early in the year about how he was bad in the red zone, and he still is kind of. He still isn't like even this last one where he did the reverse to JJ. Yeah. I was like, what is that?
Right.
Well, you guys know how Detroit has so many short yardage answers.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like we don't have a deep bag there, and we're not. Like it seems like some other teams seem to stress more low red zone, short yardage situations and seem to have more things to go to in those cases. It's when you get really tight that this offense seems to struggle for me. Thirds and shorts. I almost feel better about like a 3rd and 9 than a 3rd and 2.
Well, I also think,
I mean?
I felt the same way, like 3rd and 6, we're fine if it's 4th and 5, we can make that, but 3rd and 1, no. Then there's choices like, let's run it up, our weakest lineman's ass. And that's on short yardage. And I'm like, why'd you run it that way? Why are we running a sneak over Reisner? Why aren't we running it over over the other side if we can, because that's where Ed Ingram is. It's like, why don't we run it to the guy that is fucking strong, and is known as a good run blocker? But no, you go over Reisner, who gets it just just annihilated on a play, and we lose the game.
Right. Well, like it's part of it too on short yardage. Like they're like the opposing defense is like, well, we know these guys can't run the football, so let's just load up the line, or like not even like I don't know. I think that's part of it too. Is like they know we're inept at running.
I'm like,
and,
what an opportunity to fake it.
Right. Exactly.
You know.
So
Yeah,
I don't
how
know.
about-
I just think there's a ton of untapped potential with Kevin O'Connell from a play calling perspective for sure. But we've seen as like just a head coach what he can be, and that's what excites me when it comes to Kevin O'Connell.
Yes.
I think
he's
just going to get. I think he's grown. Even though we lost more games, I felt he grew. I honestly, I think he became, the guy that held the team together
for as long as he could. And that's why, like I know, like some people say he came out and played terribly against the Packers. Like the team wasn't ready to go in a game where you controlled your own destiny again. I'm like, yeah, but I think the TJ Hawkinson injury was kind of just, it was the final one that the team's just like, okay, like this ain't our year. The injuries, whatever. And I get that. Like it's still on the head coach. You got to make sure you guys ready to play. And that's the thing too. But and here's the other part too. That just like, I mean, the internet's a crazy place. Social media, people can say whatever they want and basically just make it sound like it's true, and people will have opinions, and it's kind of a crazy place. But like the amount of people that you saw on Twitter, like, play Jaron Hall. Why are you playing Nick Mullins? Kevin O'Connell, you're a dumbass. Play Jaron Hall. You play Jaron Hall. The other half of Twitter comes out. Why the hell are you playing Jaron Hall? He wasn't ready. Play Nick Mullins. What are you doing? Play Josh Dobbs again. I'm like, you can't win when it comes to and that's why coaches.
Well, that's why you got to be safe like me. I feel like Mullins gives a better chance, but I think the risk of playing or the reward of finding out what Jaron Hall is like is more important. So you got to play both sides of the fence like I did.
I agree with Steve here.
That way you can go back and say, yeah, Mullins is better. Play him on the last week.
Yeah, I don't really think Detroit is much better than the Packers, Vikings, and Bears. I see certain things Detroit is like handed to them easily. Yeah,
their defense isn't great.
No, like
we played
their defense has their defense has a couple pieces.
Their OC is going to get a head coaching job, and we're going to be back in the shit.
Sounds like he's up for some interviews as well.
We played him tight twice with
backup quarterbacks
and backup offensive tackles, and
Justin Jefferson got his annual like 200 yard game against them. So I mean,
and I figured out that were you guys listening to the broadcast where like up until the late second they kept saying that Detroit was shutting JJ down? There was one point at which it was
he had like 80 yards or something like
that. He's got 5 catches for 73 yards. Man, they're doing a great job on him. It's like, what?
Right.
$193 or some shit like that. It's like, no, he wasn't.
My thing in the third quarter, if you talk like, we held him to 83 yards and no touchdowns, no big explosive plays, then you're talking about something. But that early on, like, come on. And then he beats you big on the touchdown. Like, there it is. That's
yeah. I gotta jump in a minute here, guys. But the last thing going into next year for KOC that I still think is like a huge thing he needs to work on is not necessarily overall game management, but like second half timeouts. We saw that a huge issue with that when the mics weren't working or whatever, but he was trying to call a timeout with like 8 minutes to go in the third, with like 8 minutes to go in the third quarter against Detroit. Didn't get it off, but he was trying to call a timeout just to avoid a delay of game. And it's like, this is a 1 possession game, Kevin. You can't.
My big complaint is we have had too many
delay game penalties.
And I get being upset with that and everything, but that's a little bit of a reflection of the head coach too.
Yeah,
I think a lot to do with the head coach, and honestly, I'd say that's the hardest thing in sports is having to like think ahead and what play you're going to call and then calling the play. You got 15 seconds to do it before the thing goes out, and then they got to go up to the line.
Well, like even against the Chargers with the delay, like what was the issue there with not calling a timeout? Like people wanted to say, well, Kirk Cousins need to call that timeout. Like, no, that's Kevin O'Connell. Like you need to get it through to your quarterback and your guys. Like, here's the plan. If we don't get this first down, call a timeout or get up to the line and run a play. Like you got to make the.
Well, that's what he did. He ran the play.
Yeah, but that needs to come down. But they couldn't. Like they didn't get the play call in. Like it needs to be like if we get the first down, here's the play call we're going with because we want to keep them in the same formations here. The same personnel. So here's the play call we're doing. That's on that coach. And I blame it on him fully at that point.
I mean, it was the same way with that play last year where we ran the throwback to Kirk and we thought we had the first down. And so it was going to be a first down play. No, it ends up being a third down play. The throwback to Kirk Cousins. You remember that?
Yeah.
Was it the playoffs? Yeah,
Yes, I think it was.
that was
Yeah,
one of those
yep.
situations where call a different play. This is
What's going on,
first
man?
down. This is third down, not first down anymore. You don't want to do a trick play to Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, sure. All right, Johnny, before you go, though, Two Evils question. Kevin O'Connell letter grade for play calling in his career. What do you give him?
In his career, I think he's B minus. Like I said, there's, a good 15, 16 worst play callers in the league. It's tough for us when we don't watch every single game as intently as we do the Vikings with as critical of an eye.
The point I always make.
But,
I'm gonna go see just because I want to see him get better. I think he needs to get better. I think he will.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go see. Just give him some room. Give room for improvement.
I'm going with Johnny because there is room in improvement because it's a B. You can always get an A.
That is true. That is true.
But
one of my old bosses always said he would never give anybody an A grade because then it means that they'd give up on working. He's like, I give you a B. You always have something to shoot for. I'm like, okay.
So,
I appreciate you guys. Appreciate
thanks for coming in, Johnny.
Follow
Appreciate it.
Bite Size Sports.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, subscribe to Bite Size Sports. Subscribe to Johnny. Thanks so much for hopping in, man.
Yeah, I mean, we watch the highlights of other games and we watch our game, right? And we're like,
for sure.
And then I think our biggest complaint is probably the run game. So you may be right, C, because only half the game, half the offense is effective. But how often were we down? How often are we down both years, right? Where we had to come back,
and again,
you're not running the ball,
right? And that's something that I think Jamie. First off, our other Packer friend here, Angler, how's it going, man? Go! How about them Cowboys? Go Dallas! But anyway, and that's kind of another thing that Jamie is talking about as well. Is like Jamie's big thing is like he knows how to coach when he's behind. He needs to learn how to coach when he's even or with the lead. And like
I thought he did
behind,
that.
The offense is explosive and fun. When we have a lead, he just gets way too conservative.
Well, and that's what I liked about him in San Francisco in the Packer game, right?
And that's the thing, and that's why
that was the growth I thought.
Yes, absolutely. Like that game, because that game and the Packer game, when he had his quarterback, he was aggressive. And like every play was aggressive.
In 5 minutes left, he was still trying to throw it down with Kirk Cousins, and that's when he tore his Achilles. He was still trying to go deep with that.
Right. So like,
we were 5 minutes left in the game.
I thought that's when we were taking a turn because we had talked about all up to then. Like, because what was the game before that? He was too conservative in one of the games before that. Was it like the Bears or something?
Oh, he was the Bears and Carolina.
Yeah, and it's like one of those things where we're just like, man, we need to see it. We need to see this offense come alive. And then the San Francisco game happened, and that's why the Vikings went from
there was a lot of drops though. In the Carolina game, there was like 7 drops. And it was like, shit, man, I'm calling these plays and they're just not catching the ball.
Right, exactly. But
and then we had the touchdown called back, and then he throws the pick 6, the first play, first drive of the game.
But like, it's crazy because from Carolina, it went from a 1-4 team that just is way underachieving. They need to get better. And then we beat San Francisco because then when the offense got explosive and the defense got a little better, and we beat a big team like San Francisco on Monday Night Football, the national media narrative changed. So the Vikings could really make a run here. So it's like it's crazy. Like that's how quickly it changed, and I think that's how much this team showed they can do against a team like the 49ers, right? So it's the frustrating what could have been, and I think that's what makes this offseason so much harder with a ton of question marks. And like I've moved on from the regular season, but it definitely was a season of what could have been. But it showed you what can be with Kevin O'Connell if he has the guys that he needs. And these backup quarterbacks just weren't it. And the people that wanted him to sculpt his offense around Josh Dobbs in 2 weeks, it was never going to happen.
Out of the off seasons that we've had as YouTubers, I've only had 2. I think you may have had a third one.
Yeah.
Or no.
No, we just had the 2.
Just the 2. Out of the 3, counting this one, I'm thinking this one's going to be the most fun to watch.
Right. Because the other one was like GM and head coach, which is exciting, but it's not like,
as far as getting like who's going to be on the team and what direction we're going,
and there's huge
free agency. We finally got positive money,
Mm-hmm.
We're not, I don't know how the Saints do it, like -100 and then sign all these different players.
Right. And I think it's just the positions of importance that are at question here, because it's quarterback, it's your star, like the best wide
receiver and left tackle,
who doesn't have a contract.
Hey, we don't have to worry about if we sign Penix. He's left-handed.
Right, exactly. Right. That's what I said. Did that drop Derisov's value if you get Penix? I don't know.
Yeah, hey,
but then-
sorry, you're not a blindside guy anymore.
Exactly, right? So Brian O'Neill, you get the big bucks now.
O'Neill's the one under contract for 2 more years.
But you have that. You have a premier left tackle you need to re-sign, and then you have an edge rusher position that you need to figure out because you have, Daniil Hunter. Who knows? I think DJ Wanham probably signs back on a 1-year prove it type deal.
I would think
with the
he was
injury.
going to look for a payday, right?
I think
and
he was
we may,
too. But that's why I think
may
he
have
comes
lucked
back.
out. Unfortunately for him,
Right? For sure.
We may have lucked out with KJ Osborne.
Penix scares me. Penix draft stock is going to drop. It is, I think here's the thing with recency bias. I get it. Like right now, everyone's thinking.
Well, you still got to go through the pro days.
Well,
and
look, when Penix is throwing unpressured at his pro day in the combine, man, if you watch that dude, his accuracy is pinpoint. His arm is amazing. It's just what Kofi says. Scares me, and it's the knee. And this last game, he's tough. He toughed out those injuries, but he was getting beat up a lot in the NFL. Like my dad texted me right after that game. He said he's gonna be taking a lot bigger hits than that from NFL defenses. Will he be able to hold up? I don't know. But the prospects of what he can be with the arm, and he does have enough mobility he does have enough mobility. He's not going to be Caleb Williams, but not a lot of people are. But
one of the things they're going to put, it's going to be in his draft bio, and you'll see this. You saw in Nick Mullins. Nick Mullins played in injury in college, and in his thing it says how tough a player he is, and you'll see that they'll put in Penix's bio that he played through injury and toughed it out. He was a tough player. So that's actually I think a positive that he was able to play through injuries, right?
Right. But and then like when you look at how he fit into this offense that we had this last season, he will. Because here's the thing, Kevin O'Connell, to his fault,
a pocket passer first, right?
He's a guy, and that's why, like, you saw the one play where Josh Dobbs against the Raiders, he was stood in the pocket, backed out, he ran for a first down. They show Kevin O'Connell on the sidelines. He's mad, like he dropped the F-bomb. I'm pretty sure because he's like, you didn't run the play, you missed an open receiver, and you just ran for it.
He fades and he's slow and fades in his drop, and that was my biggest complaint about Dobbs. And when Jaron Hall got in there, he started doing this last start. He did the same exact shit Dobbs did. He was slow in the drop and he faded.
Yeah. But and
you see Mullins and Kirk, they get back, they're looking ready to throw.
Right. And I think that's what Kevin O'Connell wants. He wants a guy that's going to be a pocket passer first. And if he needs to extend the play by getting out of the pocket, he can definitely do it.
And Dobbs could have been that, he could have been that guy. I think he's got the strong enough arm and the height and, the athleticism, but he just, I don't know what was the deal with his dropbacks, his 10-yard dropbacks and shit.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, and that's why a lot of these, that's what scares me about the quarterbacks that like to run a lot is like, I want my quarterback to learn how to be a pocket guy first. And then and that's the thing. Justin Fields was calling out his coaches halfway through the season because they're not letting me be me. They're not letting me run. They want to turn me into something I'm not.
And I know
that's the problem. That's why I don't want a guy like that. I want a guy that you can develop to be a pocket passing quarterback. In the NFL, you have to be, and you have to use your athletic ability to move and extend plays, sure, but you need to be a thrower first.
I know Justin and Jamie aren't on here, but they always bring up Kevin O'Connell wants to go get his guy. Kwesi wants to go get his guy. I'm like, whose guy is KOC? The last, he's, the quarterback with the Rams and the quarterback with the Vikings. These guys are not mobile running quarterbacks. And what happens when we get one? He doesn't run any plays for him.
And that's what's
that's what I'm saying. So he's got his guy, and the guy he would look for in the NFL and in the college is got to do that stuff, like you just said. Maybe run if you have to, or at the right
sure. Which is an aspect of today's NFL. It's an aspect of today's NFL for sure. You have to be able to,
and for longevity's sake.
Yes, yeah.
For health's sake,
with how good these pass rushers are getting these days too. Like, yeah, like you could have the best offensive line in the world, or you're still going to get hit. Like, and you need to for health's sake, you need to be able to extend plays and move out of the pocket.
Because like Cam Newton, man. He fizzled out of the league, right?
And by the way, Cam Newton, I saw it today. He's kind of an entrepreneur now. He got into a freight broker business, which is exactly what I do for work. So I have the same job as Cam Newton. Just saying.
Awesome. Doesn't he look like he was made in a Build-A-Bear?
That's kind of accurate, yeah.
The way
But
he
I mean, but that's the
dresses,
thing. It's like,
he got dressed at a Build-A-Bear.
like, yes, Kevin O'Connell, and he wouldn't have even had to have completely redesigned the playbook for Josh Dobbs. It would have just been adding in a couple rollouts. But also, like, at the end of the day, you couldn't have expected him to completely rewrite, like, because this playbook, like, they've been practicing these for 2 seasons and through OTAs and training camp. Like, you can't just expect him to scrap the playbook and start over from scratch for a different type of
He threw in a couple read options and he effed it up.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. It's one of those seasons that, I mean, everybody calling for Kevin O'Connell's head, like, I get it. It's fair to question him. There are things that need to be questioned because even the quarterback injuries didn't matter. Like, there are certain times where it's like certain plays were ran and you're like, I don't like that player. Why did you do that? Or why did you do this? But like, can I call you Cam Newton now? I mean, I'm not as rich or as flamboyant as as Cam Newton is, but if I can have his money, I'll be Cam Newton. That's fine.
I like how that NFL commercial came true when he went to New England.
Yeah.
Where the little white kid said he was going to, take over as quarterback. And then the white kid gets drafted, takes over as quarterback.
Yeah, right.
And well, now he's out.
Yeah, Mac Jones. Yeah, he's not good at all, unfortunately. He's
How about the news today? Like Pete Carroll gone.
Yeah.
Nick Saban gone.
Yeah, that was crazy. Nick Saban retiring. But I guess like he's kind of done everything there is to do in the league. So isn't flamboyant a code for something? Yeah, I probably shouldn't have used that word. I thought about that after I said it. It means something different.
It's only if your mind goes that way.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's not what I meant. There was a different word I was thinking of, but fragrant isn't it either, because I'm sure he smells nice, but if he dresses like that, he's got to have the best cologne in the world. But
he looks like he smells nice.
That is true. But yeah, Nick Saban though, I guess he's kind of done everything there is to do as it comes to I think they said he's just moving up to like a front office position, which I get. He's old, so
He quoted, he said,
that's a good point.
He did a shout out to Bud Grant. Says Carroll did. He says my what do you say? My great mentor, or my best mentor, or something like his number one mentor, Bud Grant, and then like told a story. Apparently he effed it up. Kind of like when Biden said, the thing.
But yeah, man, I don't know. I think this offseason is going to be a lot of fun. I think he was on the Vikings staff. Pete Carroll, he wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. So was Mike Tomlin. A lot of guys. But again, I don't put that whole situation in the same boat as Flores being on Kevin O'Connell's staff, because I don't know. I just think they got to stick with O'Connell, especially, and you've brought it up too, that you don't really want to go defensive head coach when you have to draft your quarterback in the future, because you want him to be able to develop in the same offense.
I just assume always get the best offensive coordinator. Obviously it worked with the Steelers, and it worked with New England because he was a D coordinator.
Yeah.
But obviously you had to know a good amount of the offensive side of the ball, right, to be that effective and that consistent, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you got to be just a really outstanding coach, and you can't. And this is one thing KOC does very well. He doesn't alienate the other side of the ball like Zimmer did.
Yeah,
that was the guys that came out and complained about him the most. Was Brian O'Neill was one of them, and you think Brian O'Neill said something bad about somebody,
and I think
something happened. Brian O'Neill's talking about it,
and I think Brian O'Neill, I think he alluded to that again in his season-ending press conference or his media availability. I think he even said, like, with this regime, a lot of people want to come back, unlike the last one. So I think,
and I think with Brian Flores, if he was to come back, I think it entices defensive players to want to come play for him.
Yeah,
because all the guys talked about is how much fun they had playing that defense, and so that's a big selling point to free agents. People think we're in bad shape right now, and I know Justin has occasionally said how the Bears are in a better situation than us over the last year. I don't think so. I think we're fine. We got plenty of room. We got, I think, less holes. You guys talked about how, we didn't have a whole lot of defensive players, but he actually kind of had like half of them, like
Right. I mean, I think
Jordan
there's, like,
Hicks played great.
well, yeah, and
Cam
I'd like to see
Bynum
Hicks.
played
I'd like to see
great.
Hicks come back, and then maybe Asamoah takes that next step as well at linebacker because he had a down year this year, and people are expecting him to be that
Well,
number
yeah,
2 guy.
and Pace Jr. And
Yeah.
and we don't need that many off-ball linebackers anymore, right? So
No, it's
like
mainly line. It's line and kind of in a really
corner.
good defense, a stud defensive back, which you could probably get in free agency, I'm sure. And then
I
just
think
and then
we
an
need
edge
a
rusher and a
corner.
defensive tackle.
Well, the one thing I like about Cam Bynum, I mean, he learned from Harrison and he learned from Patrick Peterson, even though he was a corner, and
What's going on, JJ?
he's shown himself as the guy. Yeah, JJ's been all over my YouTube.
I see that.
Calling me Kirkstan. I imagine he knows it's meant to be an insult, but thanks. Nice joining, JJ. Thanks for showing up. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like Cam Bynum, I think he's taken that step as the leader now. I think in the backfield, I think that he's taken that mantle, and I think he learned a lot from Harrison Smith and Patrick Peterson last year.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I mean, I think is he a free agent after this year, or does he still have another year on his contract? Just want to backfield.
He's got one more.
Yeah, man, that'd be sick to bring him in.
I think imagine Harrison Smith's gone, unless he signed for like $1 million or $2 million. I think it'd be good to move on probably. I never want to see him. Like he's like after we lost, he became my favorite player because he was the next guy in line, right? So it's like, we'll see.
Hey, Mateo, being a little more pro Kirk than anti Kirk doesn't quite make me a stan. I am looking at quarterbacks that are going to be drafted this year for the Vikings. So I wouldn't call me a stan. I would just call me, I'm a fan of Kirk Cousins, and I think he's a good quarterback. But
well, I'm not sure if they realize where Stan came from. It's Eminem's song where the guy committed suicide because Eminem didn't reply to him in a letter. So I'm like, yeah, I don't think either of us would come near committing suicide. We both talk about moving on to the next quarterback pretty consistently. So,
yeah. But no. I like Kirk, but he's not. I understand he's not the future. He's not the be all end all future of this franchise. But we'll see. And that's and again, that's the biggest question we have to answer this offseason. And I'm excited. By the way, the Wolves have a 1-point lead over Boston with 36 seconds left. Will they finish? I don't know.
They will blow that.
They might. I don't know. It'd be kind of scary. But anything else you wanted to talk about tonight? We've our long show, hour 45 minutes. Oh no, Jamie, I must have missed something. Game-winning shot.
Oh shit.
27 seconds left. Oh no.
I'm looking now. Let's stay on while this is happening.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's a big offseason. It's gonna be fun. Boston just went up by 2. I must be behind. I still see like 109, 108. There it is, 109, 111. I see that now. Oh boy.
I blame Jane.
But hey, I mean, going into Boston and taking him to the wire without Rudy Gobert tonight. I mean,
well, we've been losing lately, right?
Yeah, I think because I think this is like the last or second to last game on a stretch of like 16 games in a row versus winning teams, and I think they have a winning record right now in that stretch. So I think that's
not too bad.
No, it's solid. I mean, you got to take it for sure.
I was listening to the Mavericks game the other night. They went up by 6 and blew it.
Yeah, they did not. Yeah, Ant and Cat took a couple bad shots trying to play a little bit of hero ball that didn't quite work out.
And I saw they killed a foul on Cat, and the guy punched him in the face, basically, or the neck, and they called a foul on.
By the way, speaking of players,
Gobert or Conley, huh?
Speaking of players, I do not stand for. Before this season, I was on team get rid of Karl Anthony Towns. I gotta shout out Towns and how impressed I've been with him this year. I mean, the complaining and that's the biggest thing with me. He complained too much. He hasn't complained nearly as much this year, and I think it's starting to get it a little bit. So that's what I'm happy to see that from him.
Well, and you're not the guy now.
And I think he realizes he's not the guy anymore. I think that's big for him.
7.5 seconds. Who's got the ball?
It's still 109, 111.
Yeah.
I'm still like 25 seconds, so I'm probably a little bit behind.
Shit.
Not looking good.
Celtics called a timeout. Derek White shooting foul. Does that mean Does that mean he got fouled?
I don't know enough about basketball to know exactly what all the rules mean.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Did Derek White get foul, or did he fouled someone shooting the ball? Could mean either way.
I don't know. But I mean, the fact that the Celtics called the timeout means that they would have the ball. I'm pretty sure, because you can't call a timeout unless you have the ball.
Well, it's a foul.
Oh yeah, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. 7.5 seconds.
It's a dead ball. Oh man.
Watch this game go to OT. I'd have to pop off and go watch that quick if it gets there.
Yeah, I'm Uber and turning on Sirius XM. I'm out, Wolves. Talk to you later, fellas.
Well, Wolves talk. See ya. Thanks for hopping in.
Oh, later to catch a 20. All right.
Anything else before we call it a night here, Dave?
No, I'm just gonna go put my Kirk Cousins Snuggie on and
go do some driving. All right, everybody. Hey, we appreciate you hopping in tonight. Really do. Jamie will be back with us next week. Yeah, but anyway, big offseason ahead for the Vikes. It's gonna be fun, and we'll be around for content all offseason long. It's gonna be great. So thanks everybody for hopping in. We'll see you guys next time.